Hi guys, how's it going? My name is Kazuma and I want to show you guys my actually it's not really mine. This is my younger brother's main deck, which is Granblue Basskirk deck. This is another season 1 deck and it's actually my younger brother's favorite. It's his main deck in his tournaments. Now, I'm going to go, show you guys and I'm not really an expert on how this deck works, but I'll show you guys a bit of what I know because I also use this deck sometimes. And so let's start. First of all, you would need King of Demonic Seas Basskirk. During your turn, if your drop zone has 10 or more cards, this unit gets plus 5,000 and 1 critical. Counter Bless 1 and Soul Bless. Call a card from your drop zone, and this unit gets plus 5,000 for each of for each grade of that unit. So it's your main Vanguard. This deck heavily relies on your drop zone. So you need to have a lot of cards in your drop zone. Keep guarding. That's my advice. You need to keep guarding. Next is your second in command. Dragon Undead Skull Dragon. This card cannot be normal ride. Okay. During your turn, this unit. Oh, I'm sorry. This card cannot be normal called. It can be normal rided, but it can't be normal called. During your turn, this unit gets 2,000 for each card in your drop zone. Next, until the end of the battle that this unit attacked, retire this unit. So, yes, that's how it works. After this unit attacks, it goes back to the drop zone. Next, Witch Doctor treats you Negro Beach. During your turn, if your drop zone has 10 or more cards, this unit gets plus 10,000. Counterblast 2 while in the drop zone. Call this into the rear guard. If you have a Vanguard that's grade 2 and it's not placed yet, you may ride this card instead. Stand up. So, this unit is like a superior ride. It's very powerful. And if you don't have Basskirk in your deck, and this card is in the drop zone, you you know you can actually superior ride him and you would get protect. So like I said, it's very powerful and you get plus 10,000 power. Next, Siebed Demon Beast Scaredick. Yes, that's his name. I'm not making that up. Vanguard Rear Guard, once per turn. If your drop zone has 30 or more cards, discard all the cards in your hand, and this unit gets 30k and 1 critical until the end of the turn. So, 2 crits, 30k power up. Now, this guy is highly risky. You only use it when you're about to final turn your opponent. I wouldn't recommend using him in the first turn. So, yeah, don't use him in the first turn. But if you have no cards in your hand and you still use this guy, you can still use his ability because it didn't really say it's actually required. If you don't have any cards in your hand and you use him, that still counts as discarding all the cards in your hand, and you would still get the 30k and 1 critical. So that's the reason why I placed him in the deck, or my younger brother placed him in the deck. Captain Night Mist. When placed, counter plus 1, call a grade 1 or less card from your drop zone. If your drop zone has 10 or more cards, you may call regardless of the grade. So, this card can actually be used to, call Skull Dragon, and it's very useful. But you need to make sure that your drop zone already has 10 cards. So, it's very important that you have 10 cards in your drop zone. Next would be Ruin Shade. When it attacks the Vanguard, put 2 cards from your deck into the drop zone, and this unit gets plus 4,000 until the end of the battle. During your turn, if your drop zone has 10 or more cards, this unit gets plus 4,000. So it's plus 8,000. It's 17k attack. very useful. And this thing makes sure that that your drop zone would always have cards in it, so you could resurrect them back. This is your main grade 2, by the way. Next would be Commodore Blue Blood. During your turn, if you have a Commodore Blue Blood in your drop zone, this unit gets plus 4,000. So you need to make sure Blue Blood is already in your drop zone to make this guy work. When attack hits the Vanguard, retire this unit, draw 2 cards, and discard a card from your hand. So it helps you configure your hand if you have bad hand. I placed 3 of him because he's very useful, and it also adds an extra, card to the drop zone while you fix your hand if things don't go well. Troubadour Cadaver Alfie. That's a hard name. When placed from hand, if you have 10 or more cards in your drop zone, discard a card from your hand, counter charge, and soul charge. So this is your counter charger. Evil Shade. Counterblast, bind a card from your drop zone, and call a card with the same card name as bound from the cost in the drop zone to the rear guard. Superior call, but you need to bind, of course. And it's only used once per turn, so, it's like that. There's a lot of tactics on how to make this deck work, because you need to make sure that there are a lot of, combos that you would be able to do. It's sort of a strategy type of deck. It's not a barrage type. I still prefer Nova Grapplers, but my younger brother is pretty good with this, and at certain times he's able to beat me with it. So this is actually helpful to the deck. Next, Norman the Ghosty. Retire this unit and put 2 cards on the top of your deck into the drop zone, and one of your unit gets plus 10k. So this is a 10k booster. I mean, not booster, but you know what I mean. If you place this in the rear guard, retire him right away, put 2 extra cards from the top of your deck into the drop zone, and one of your units gets plus 10k. So it helps you add more and more power. The specialty of this deck is power-ups, drop zone, and criticals. So that's one of the ways you could actually win. Dandy Guy Romario. If your drop zone has 10 or more cards, this unit gets plus 4,000. Counterblast 1, put a card from your hand into your soul. Put 3 cards on the top of your deck into your drop zone, and return 1 card from your drop zone to your hand. So this guy, what he does is, first of all, power up if you have more cards. Next, like I said, put a card from your hand into your soul. Put 3 cards on the top of your deck into the drop zone, and return 1 of those cards into your hand. 1 of those cards goes back to your hand. So it's a way for you to maneuver. It's like I said, this deck is a bit confusing, but it's really good once you're able to get a hang of it. Dancing Cutlass. Drop zone. Bind another Dancing Cutlass from your drop zone in the top of your deck into the drop zone. And call this card into the rear guard. And call this card to the rear guard circle. And next is Counter Charge. So this is your Counter Charger and Superior Call. It's a bit weird, in my opinion, but it's very useful in the decks, especially according to how my younger brother explained it. In terms of doing it, like I said, bind another Cutlass from your drop zone. Put the top card of your deck into your drop zone. Call this card into the rear guard. So you can only use this guy twice. I just want to make that clear. That's why I put 4, because you can only use him twice. But he's very powerful because he's a counter charger and superior call. Now let's go to the triggers. Night Spirit. Next. Mortal Mimic. Next. Rick the Ghosty. Next. And lastly, Gust Jin. Standard perfect guard. The draw trigger P perfect guard, and I think it's very powerful. Many people used it back in my day, and I still think it's reliable to this day. And my starter is Captain Nightkid. Anyways, like I said, this deck is a bit confusing in my opinion, but it's very powerful because it's able to help my team win before, and I was able to join tournaments before. I'm not really active anymore in Vanguard, but this is my younger brother's main deck, and this deck is able to go 50-50 with my Noble Grappler sometimes, and it usually depends. Next thing I want to show you guys is my protect markers. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I got 6 of those. Anyways, I think that's all for today. If you guys have any questions about this deck, you guys can ask me. This is my younger brother's main deck, Basskirk. Most of the decks I have are actually from Season 1, the first edition. I really like the first edition, not gonna lie. I don't really get any decks from the future builds anymore. I mean, sometimes I do, but I prefer the Season 1s because I like certain aesthetics. My decks are usually aesthetic decks. It's like art to me. I really like art. So, I think that's all. Anyways, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. That's all for today. And leave a comment, those kinds of stuff. I still have a lot more decks, I could show you guys more. I have a huge collection. Maybe next time I'll show you guys my whole collection. Anyways, that's all for today. Peace out.